Okay. All right. All right. Hello, everyone. This is Conversations with Rob. Please like and subscribe our videos online. And also, you'll be hearing this on the air. So for everybody that's listening on the air, thanks so much for listening. We're going to start off with the interview that I've been preparing for and happy to have on. Arnoux Goran, is that how you say your last name?
You got it. Goran, yes.
Goran, all right, awesome. All right, and he is going to tell us how to, first of all, we're going to talk about negativity, and we're going to talk about how to get rid of bad vibes and bad people in our life. And a little bit about Arnoux is he did the 7 steps to reprogramming yourself. That's the first proven method to access in unconscious minds and remove the old and repeating negative thoughts and emotions. And that happens permanently. So that's a positive thing that we all need. And you have a heck of a story that's, you've grown up in that, as I was reading about you. And I'd love for you to tell the viewers a little bit about you and growing up and how you kind of defeated the odds that were dealt to you.
Well, thank you. Yeah, both my parents were deaf, so that means they can't hear, and I speak fluent sign language. And they had a horrible crack cocaine addiction from the time I was 8 up until when I was 19. And they had a drug problem before that. But when I turned 8, they kind of went off the deep end and started smoking crack all day, every day. And at that point, the amount of emotional and you could say mental trauma that I was going through was pretty extreme. Neglect, starvation, and being cold, constant verbal violence. So going through that for many years, I mean, we're talking over a decade of hell, it pushed me to a place where I was very sick and I almost died. And that forced me, without any other possibility, to figure out how to fix myself or literally get off the planet.
So we hear a lot of issues, like especially in, I am also a teacher at a school. This radio gig is just kind of a second-rate thing that I do. I deal with a lot of kids that, kind of dealt with some of the stuff that you're going through. Child neglect situations. They're homeless. They live I'm in Orlando area, and right near Disney, there's a whole row of kind of small motel hotels, and kids live in there, and they have tough lives. And you kind of talk about this in your book, and and reading about you, I saw about this. But how did you kind of get through all these tough situations? I mean, I talk to a lot of these kids and they come to school hungry. I'm a teacher. I'm on a teacher's salary. I'm not going to lie to any of you or the listeners. It's not the best salary, and I can't go and feed 200 kids that are suffering from these issues. So first of all, how do I help these kids? But also, I'd love to hear your story about how you overcame these issues.
Those are 2 great questions. For myself, even as a little kid, there was always this little voice in me, this knowingness that somehow things would get better. I never believed that it was always going to be that way. I knew that someday I'd be an adult and I'd be able to make my life the way I wanted to make my life, and that it was only temporary. And I kept telling myself that. I just kept my mind focused on trying to get my parents off of drugs because I believed that if they stopped doing drugs, they'd stop being the way that they were. Right. And as time went on, I eventually was able to achieve those goals and just kept going from there. I think if you get to a place where you're hopeless and you just have no hope that you're ever going to get out of the situation you're in, that's when you're in trouble. I never lost that. I think that's what saved me.
So you helped your parents get off drugs then?
Well, I did my best. I mean, when I was 18, my mom and dad were having a big fight, and my mom wanted to stop, and she said she couldn't because my dad was there doing it in front of her all the time. Right. And they fought over, who should stay in the house. And I told my dad he should leave, and he left, which was amazing. So at that point, my mom was able to slowly, eventually stop. And then with my dad, I went to a prayer ceremony and I prayed for him to stop. And 2 days later, he was arrested, and he went to rehab instead of jail. And after he came back from rehab, he stopped. So wow. I at least played a small role in it. I couldn't say I did it, but it was my goal all throughout my childhood. And I just kept my mind focused on that until it finally came true.
Right. So to go back to the second question, like I said, I deal with these kids all the time, and this is kind of right in your wheelhouse. How do I get to these kids, that a lot of them are in that same situation as you were earlier on in life. They are hopeless. They feel like they go to school, they act up because they're acting out, not because they want to be troublemakers, just because they have nobody that cares about them at home. They're just coming here. A lot of these kids come to school. They want to stay there as long as possible because when they come home, they go home to drugs. They go home to people that are abusive to them. So how do, I, as a person that's in the situation but out of it, help these kids, would you say?
Now, that is a really difficult universal question. So I'm going to
Mhm.
give you a universal answer that has actually a lot to do with quantum physics. I'll tell you a story. So there was a man named Dr. Hugh Len, or there is a man named Dr. Hugh Len, who closed down a mental hospital for the criminally insane in Hawaii. And it closed down because the people got better. And the basic philosophy of his practice is that the whole world is a reflection of something that's happening inside of you. And if you can work on yourself, you'll see your world change around you. And one of my students, for example, her name's Rocio. She told us a story this month about her parents. Her father was very abusive to her and her mom and her brothers and her sisters, her siblings, and her whole life. And her mom and dad never got along. They slept in separate bedrooms. They always fought. And she did not like her father. Then she married an alcoholic guy who beat her up just like her dad. The same pattern recurred. And she went
Right.
through my courses and she started erasing all the pain from her childhood, all the pain. I mean, it was a lot of pain that she had built up over all those years of being abused. So she finally finishes the last process. There's 4 major tools for transformation that we use. The last one's called completion. She finishes it about her dad. And then she gets a call from her siblings saying, you've got to come home to Costa Rica. So she flies all the way down there. You're not going to believe it. Mom and dad are friends now. He's happy. So we think he's going to die. So you got to come visit.
Mhm.
So she goes down there thinking he's on his deathbed, but he's fine. There's nothing wrong with him. It's just that he's not the same person. Now he's nice. He and her mom hold hands. They go out on dates. She's teaching him to read. She's making him dinner. They were like a couple
Wow.
that love each other.
Yeah.
And he totally changed in who he was by her healing herself. And I actually have many stories like that, some that are even more close to home with my own friends and family. And it's really amazing what happens when you work on yourself. So am I saying that if you, Rob, heal the pain that you feel about all these kids being hungry, that it'll change their realities? Maybe not, but it'll certainly have a huge positive impact. Like I said before, it's about quantum physics. We're all integrated, and connected by energy. That's how Dr. Hugh Len closed down the mental hospital. Maybe that's how we can do it.
And I definitely want to get into what you do. My thing is, I would say just a quick thing about myself is in the the frame of work I'm in, very a feeling person. I do worry about a lot of stuff going on in my own family, but not only that, a lot of people that I work with, as far as the students that we talked about, have go through a lot of issues at home. How do I kind of, as you said, shut myself down and say, I do care about those people, but you don't want to take a heart attack worrying about everybody in the world?
That is such a great question.
Yeah.
Worrying is being afraid of something that hasn't happened yet,
Yeah.
or being concerned for their well-being. It's a good thing to be concerned, to say, look, there's a problem here and I need to do something about it. That's a really good thing. That's righteous power. But if you're coming from a place of sadness, of fear, of anger, or any sort of negative emotion, you're projecting those negative emotions into reality. So what can you do? Well, you can find any negative emotions you feel about the situation, and then you can erase them yourself. So that's what I would recommend. So if someone's worried about their kids, that's if they're afraid something bad's going to happen to their kids. If they erase the fear that something bad's going to happen to their kids, it's much less likely that something bad will happen to their kids, because that fear is actually creating itself. That's literally what quantum physics is teaching us, that our thoughts and our energy we're putting out is going to attract and create reality. And so if we can understand that and apply that, then we can make those changes in real life.
Last question on this part of the interview. Uh, and this is kind of where I found you. A lot of friends, they're negative. Family members, negative. We talked about this a little bit earlier on in the interview. how do people get away from the negativity and stop attracting the same people? As you said with the woman that you work with, she had her father abused her, then she went to her husband or her boyfriend, same thing, and it seems like majority of the people in the country and the world do these same things where they attract these type of friends, they belittle them, they make fun of them, they say they have, maybe the person has low self-esteem, they stay with these people. Is it low self-esteem that the reason why we hang around with these same people that make fun of us, belittle us? We want to be a follower. We follow all these professional athletes, all these politicians that really do, nothing for us.
Your question is so deep. I love it. The basic answer is we first have to decide that we want to have a better life. We want to be happier and feel better. And once we decide that, we can start looking for how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how to do it is actually complicated and simple. Once you learn how to do it, it becomes simple. But at first, it's like, well, what I'm going to tell you may not, or it might make sense. And let's see. Inside of you, there are feelings. Maybe you can call some of these feelings low self-esteem, like you don't feel good about yourself, right? Those feelings act like a magnet, and they're going to attract someone into your life that has a matching magnet, the other side to it. If your magnet is a positive, theirs will be a negative, or vice versa. It's a matching frequency, a matching issue. They have the mirror to your magnet, and that's what causes you to be attracted to each other. And in fact, most people who are in a relationship that's abusive or with someone where they have a lot of issues have more than one of those magnets that are attracting. There was a study done on this, and they found that married people or couples tend to be attracted to each other based on their biggest emotional pain. So the biggest magnet that they've got, that's what attracted their sweetheart. And so they stay in those relationships because even if they break up with that person or they find a new friend, they attract someone new that has the same matching issues. And they're going to keep doing that until they go inside and take out their own magnets. Once you take that stuff out of yourself, that's when you start attracting different people. Even the same people might show up differently in your life because they don't have the same matching issue with you anymore.
Right. So I want to get into the 7 steps of reprogramming yourself. So I'm sure you touched on a little bit of that earlier as we've been talking. Before we get into that, though, and I want to see if this is part of the 7 steps, we hear a lot about from people how to relax, how to, find your new self is to do these things: yoga, meditation, write a journal. Is that part of your 7 steps? And if not, do you believe in doing those things that will help you reprogram yourself?
They're not part of the 7 steps to reprogramming yourself.
Mm-hmm.
The 7 steps reprogramming yourself is literally a 7-step process that allows you to go into the unconscious mind and delete old programs. It's like, here's the manual for your mind. Here's how you go in and take things out. Everyone wishes they were born with it. Everyone needs to know how to do it. It's like your mind is a computer and you've got all these files on there that you don't like, and no one ever showed you how to delete them. That's what the 7 steps is. It's how to go in and delete the old files. All the other things you mentioned are really good practices, and a lot of them can help you to become more successful, become healthier, to be more calm, to access more of your potential as a human. They're all great practices, and I would recommend, stretching, quieting the mind, and things like that. But none of those things can go in and delete the programs from the unconscious mind. Those are different tools that work in different arenas.
So what if people say, hey, I'm listening to Arnoux, he sounds good, but, I'm tough, I can do this on my own. I might be struggling inside, but I can get through this. You know how a lot of, it's mostly men, we'll be honest. Men, say, I'm tough, I can do anything. I might be depressed today, but tomorrow I'll be better. But the depression keeps following them down the road. And then they just keep going onto a downward slide. And some people don't have that mental toughness as you did. And some people end up, having to go to a mental institution, or worse, they kill themselves.
Well, it's good to be tough. It's good to have a positive attitude. It's good to believe in yourself. The problem is that your willpower, your toughness, can only sustain you overcoming your unconscious mind for so long until your body gives out. And your body gets burned out and worn out by you forcing yourself through and over the issues that are inside of you. I have a black belt in a great martial art, and I was an instructor for a while. And one of the things we learned is that a warrior does not stuff down their feelings. A warrior deals with their feelings powerfully. So it doesn't mean that you go and throw them at someone else either. It means that you learn how to remove them and get them out of your system so that you don't have to use your willpower and your toughness to keep overcoming that stuff. So you can evolve towards the life that's a lot easier and more effortless, giving you more power and energy to achieve your goals and dreams and become more of that powerful person you always knew you could be.
So let me ask you this. Everybody seems to be negative in our culture right now. We see it on social media. We see it in the news. We see it with our presidential candidates. It's all negativity, no positivity. It seems like the world is going to end the way people talk all over the country, in person, or, in social media. Is negativity something that you believe is like a trait that we learn, or something we're born with?
It's both. When you're born, you inherit your parents' negative emotions and thoughts in your DNA. You also bring with you, wherever you've been as a soul, your old mental patterns. You do. And then as a child, you begin to learn the negative programming of your environment, and it starts getting installed in you. Up until the age of 8 and 13, your unconscious mind is totally open. You're like a sponge. You just absorb everything. Everything you hear, everything you see, it's programmed, and it's like all the files are being written. And then once you get to that 8 to 13 age, new stuff can't get in anymore. Only things that reaffirm what's already in there can get in. And so if you're in an environment where people are angry and negative a lot, guess what you're going to get programmed with? Negativity and anger. And you might even begin to think that that's how life is, because maybe you never saw anything different. And it becomes a filter that you see life through, and you don't realize that it's not real. It's just a filter. But once you can delete some of those files, the filters start to disappear, and you begin to see things more clearly, and you realize, wow, negativity is just a choice, except that for most of us, it's programmed in. So until they deprogram it out, it's not really a choice. It's just part of who they are.
So let me push back a little bit. We do have a lot of negative people that listen to the program and want to fight. So let me, talk what they would say back.
Good.
Yeah. So, they would say back something like, as far as being negative, I make a low wage. My kids got autism. I can't afford health care. I've been working 2 or 3 jobs and I just can't get it done. I live in the slums of whatever, Los Angeles or wherever they may be. This guy's telling me that all I have to do is follow 4 or 7 steps and reprogram myself. How is that going to help me get a better job? How is that going to make my kids' health get better? How am I going to be able to afford health care? It's not going to help me get a better job. That's what they're saying. So, in their mind, what would you say to somebody like that?
I would say I understand that you're going through a really bad time. I've been there. I've been through bad times. Even after I helped my parents stop doing drugs, I faced horrible challenges. I was supposed to die when I was 22. All the doctors I went to told me I was going to die. And then after I got better physically, I found myself in abject poverty. I couldn't make enough money to feed myself. And I was replaying my childhood all over again. So how the hell did I get out of those situations and start to move towards the life I dream of until I started living the life that I dream of? Well, it starts with education. I read endless books. I went to endless courses. I listened to CDs or cassette tapes everywhere I went all the time. When I was taking the bus to a crappy job that didn't pay me enough to eat, I was still reading a book or listening to some training from someone, constantly learning. And in all that education, what I learned is that my financial experience, and really my whole experience of life, is all determined by what's inside of me. And if you think about it, that's a very empowering belief, because otherwise you're just a victim. And do you really want to be a victim forever? When do you want to stop being a victim, and when do you want to start making it the way you want it to be? Oh, well, I can't change this and that and this and that. Maybe not. But you can change how you feel about it. And most of what you have in your life is a reflection of how you feel and how you think. especially your finances, especially the job you have, especially where you live. Jim Rohn said, you live in a country where everyone can go to the library and get educated for free. So there's no excuse to not be rich. And my problem was, here I was smart, here I was with 7 years of university, and I still couldn't make money. So it wasn't even the amount of education. There was something wrong with me on the inside. And when I figured out what that was, of course, it was all the crap I went through as a kid, I realized the way for me to change my life and get out of poverty, and get out of a living hell, was to get rid of all that crap inside of me. And it worked. And it works for all of my thousands and thousands of students. And I can tell you stories. And I think if I told you a few stories, it would really help to illuminate what I'm trying to say, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, that's fine. That'd be great.
So, for example, this year, there was a guy named Wayne that showed up at my course. Okay, he literally signed up on a $25 a month payment plan, which, I mean, $25 for our program is insane. But I offer that program, at least I have in the past, because I know there's people like Wayne that don't have the money to work on themselves, but they need it more than anything else in the world. So on the third day of the course, on Sunday morning, he's partnered up with Vangelis. And Vangelis is actually a self-made multimillionaire from going through my program. So his whole story is amazing too. And they're partnered up, and they were laughing because they just erased some big negative emotion. And I said, Wayne, what is your number one goal in your life? And he said, to make $6,000 a month. And I said, how do you feel that you're not making $6,000 a month? And he said, I feel really sad. It's like a giant basketball in my tummy. I said, okay, guys, erase that right now. Then we can have lunch break after that, whatever it was, half-hour practice round. After lunch, he comes back and says, I want to share something. Gets up on stage in front of the whole audience and says, so before lunch, I erased my sadness that I wasn't making $6,000 a month or any money at all. In fact, I've been out of work for 1.5 years, and all the money I have in the world right now is in my pocket. I only have a $100 bill. It's in my pocket. That's all I have. During lunch, I got a random phone call. This is right after I cleared my sadness. I didn't know who it was, but I decided to answer it, and it was a job recruiter. And they gave me an impromptu interview right here in the hotel, in the restaurant. I was literally doing a job interview just now, and they offered me a job paying $10,400 a month. And then I helped him, and after taxes, that's $6,445 a month. And the man is in tears. The audience is in tears because he literally got himself out of that situation that seemed hopeless and got himself a 6-figure job by working on himself, by healing the pain that was inside of him that was blocking him from getting the job he wanted. I can tell you hundreds of stories like this.
Mm-hmm. So let me ask you this. Would you say, to push back, because I really believe in what you're saying, but I got to push back a little bit for the people that are a little negative in the audience. What would you say to the people that say that was maybe just a fluke thing that just happened? This sounds like Tony Robbins and and so I like I said, I believe in what you say, but I got to push back a little bit.
I love your pushbacks, Rob, because you're challenging me to prove that I actually know what I'm talking about. And I love that because I can prove it. So please push all you want.
All right.
First of all, Tony Robbins doesn't know the 7 steps to reprogramming yourself. Tony Robbins is an amazing guy. He's helped a lot of people, and I have a lot of respect for him. But he doesn't know my process. The methods that he knows that I've seen, that I've trained with, they're more like using your willpower, at least for the most part. You know, thinking positively, which is a good thing. Like I said, it's good to be tough, but you can't overcome your unconscious mind with positive thinking. So this isn't like anyone else out there. There's nothing like this out there because I haven't met anyone else or ever heard of anyone else who's actually able to erase unconscious programming. So you can't really compare it to anybody else. Yes, I might sound positive. I hope I do.
Yeah.
As far as that just sounds like a fluke, that makes sense. I understand that you could feel that way. But what about someone transforming their whole life or parts of their life little by little until you see a completely different person in front of you than the person who started after many years? And those are some of the examples that I love. I have a lot of students like that. I can tell you about Eric if you want, or maybe Marty. There's so many of them. Right. Janice is actually a really good one. Janice is an author, so she's not a flaky person. She's been the head facilitator for John Gray, who wrote Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. I mean, obviously he's amazing. And she came to my course. She flew in from Colorado and took it in July of 2018. And she didn't believe it was going to work because she said she's tried everything else out there and nothing has ever worked to erase negative emotions permanently. I had to personally talk to her and tell her my own story before she would even come. So she came to the course. And she cleared a massive thing on the first day, and or the second day, and she looked really different. She was standing up straight. She had confidence. The powerlessness that was there was gone. So
Mhm.
this year, I did an interview with her. She wanted to give a testimonial. And I thought it was going to be like 10 minutes, right? No, it was a 90-minute long testimonial of what she had changed in her life over the period of a year. She she was really sick. She had IBS, so that's irritable bowel syndrome. So she was
Right.
in the hospital 29 times, ER, with the pain in her intestines. And she actually had a party with her family to celebrate not having gone to the hospital for over a year after taking my course. Now, she did a lot of nutritional and physical things before she took my course, but it only helped to some degree. And then she still had the problem. And it was getting rid of the emotional mental part that fixed the IBS. That's only one part of her story. She said she flirted with being suicidal from time to time. She'd imagine it and it'd be kind of fun. And that flirtation went away completely because she used to be hopeless. And after clearing out a lot of layers of pain and seeing that it was working, her hope for life came back. She had huge financial problems and she erased all of her financial fear. She said, I love the way you explained it, Arnoux. You're saying all the money is right there. It's trying to get to me, but it can't because I'm blocking it. And all I have to do is remove the blocks. She said it made sense. And all the other money courses that she took told her something was wrong with her, that she wasn't doing something right, that she needed to manage her money better this way or that way. But once she removed the blocks, the money has started coming in and it keeps flowing in and flowing in and flowing in and flowing in. It goes on. I mean, it was a 90-minute long story.
Right.
All the areas of her life changed by her working on herself. So that's not a fluke. That's just how human beings are designed.
So you do have many programs, and you kind of talked about some of the testimonials. Can you talk about some of the programs to the viewers and how you get these people to basically transform their whole lives to get them back where they were born to be, these people that you're transforming them back to where they should be.
I love it how you said it, Rob.
Yeah.
So there's actually 23 courses in my series, and all the testimonials I've been telling you about are all from just the first course, the 7 Steps to Reprogramming Yourself, and just that first tool. After you learn that one, then you can come to life transformation, where you learn the other 3 major tools for transformation. And actually, in the first story I told you about Rocio, she did use all 4 major tools for transformation: the 5-step emotional eraser, the emotional repolarization technique, and completion. After that, you can come to becoming your authentic self, which plays off what you just said. That's the course where you actually work on peeling away more layers to reveal your real self. And I can go into detail about all the courses, but I also have a series of courses on the body. Remember, I told you I almost died and I figured out how to fix my body. I have courses on helping other people, doing one-on-one coaching, consulting, working with people one-on-one, building a career, helping other people and transforming their lives. I have courses on relationships, on money. If you go to howtomanifestyoursoulmate.com, you can even check out my course on how to attract a person.
Right. So then let's jump into 2 things that you kind of got me intrigued to hear about. The body one, you did say about how you did almost die. What is that course about? And what are you talking about body? Are we talking about toxins that are going in our body as far as foods, alcohol, cigarettes, or are we talking about something else?
The totality of my courses, all 23 courses, addresses the physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual parts of the human being. And if
Okay.
you're going to fix something that's wrong with somebody, you need to be able to look at all 4 of those parts. You need to be able to determine what the real cause of the problem is. And then you need to have tools to address those. If the cause of the problem is in the unconscious mind, the right tool is the 7 Steps to Reprogramming Yourself. When we're talking about the body physically, we're talking about not emotional, not mental, not spiritual, but actual physical. And
Right.
when you break down the body physically, there's only one law of the body that you have to follow. And you sort of got to it there. The law is very simple. Remove all the toxicity and put all the essential nutrients in. And if you do that, the body will repair itself.
Right. I agree with that 100%. And the last thing before we get more into this theory, with the attracting people, are we talking about love? Love? Are we talking about friendships? What are we talking about?
Well, the How to Manifest Your Soulmate.com course, or How to Attract Your Soulmate.com, that's
Okay.
really about romantic relationships.
Right.
But you could certainly apply it to any type of relationship. That program
Okay.
has 3 parts. And the first part is the art of manifestation, the art of creating something. So you could apply that to any goal you want to create. And the third part is the 3 magic questions that I wrote. So they're my copyrighted questions that help you find what's in your unconscious mind that's blocking you from attracting what you want. So that would work for attracting a girlfriend or a boyfriend, but it would also work for attracting money because it works on any goal. And just that course is specifically for romantic relationships, but you could certainly apply those pieces to anything.
There's so much I could talk to you about. We could be here for about 7 hours and do 10 different segments. So we got to have you on again. I want to go into, as far as the people that you coach, is it more so younger people, middle age, older people, would you say? And what is the income level of the people? Just curious.
Well, in terms of the live courses and workshops that we provide, I would say the average age is between 40 and 70. I remember recently I had a huge group of seniors and they just were eating up everything. And you know what I like about the seniors is these are typically the people that have taken every course there is. And they're the ones who get up on stage and say, I've taken all of Tony Robbins and I've taken everything by Jack Canfield and Mark Victor Hansen and Mary Morrissey, and I've done NLP and I've done EFT and I've done and the emotion code, and I've done everything you can name. You name it, I've done it. I'm a life coach, and I have 18 certifications. And Arnoux is the greatest teacher ever, and the 7 Steps is the best course I've ever taken. And people listen to them because they're 75.
Yeah. Right.
You know, so we have a lot of older people. I would say the income varies tremendously, but my goal has always been to bring the training to everyone, to make it affordable and make it available to every single person. I don't want to just reach the top 1% who have lots of money and can afford to pay $100,000 for this knowledge. I think it should be made accessible to the whole world, because if we're going to change the world, if we're going to get rid of all of our major global problems, like negativity, like poverty and so on, we as a human species need to heal ourselves. If human beings can get rid of our anger, our fear, and our sadness that's automatically recurring from the unconscious mind, if we can get rid of that as a species, then we're going to see the world change to reflect that. That's how we're going to do it. So that's really what the mission is about.
Amazing, Arnoux. So let me ask you, for a person in my age group, 28, 29, 30-year-old, so we're younger, but we're almost hitting that middle age bracket. What would you talk to somebody like around, like I said, my age about, someone that's, in a decent career, but like I said, we're still, not making the best money. I know we talked about attitude and, curing ourselves and anxiety and stuff like that. What would you talk to somebody my age about?
If you don't learn how to reprogram your unconscious mind now, what you're going to learn is in 10 or 20 or 30 years that you've been replaying the same patterns the whole time. And you've been trying to overcome them with your conscious mind, just like I did, just like everyone does, because that's what everyone thinks you're supposed to do. And you're going to be frustrated and annoyed that you waited 20 years when you could have, in your 20s or 30s, started removing all that unconscious programming and skyrocketed yourself to success a lot faster. Whatever your goals are, for me, in a lot of my courses, it's about getting there fast. It's about speed. I have a doctor who just came to the last course, Life Transformation, and her brother and her have a center in San Diego. And he came up and shared about how he has a technology. He has a computer system that can erase negative emotions permanently. I was really amazed. It's fantastic, right? And he said that it can take 2-3 hours to clear out one issue, but we're talking about lifelong issues.
Yeah.
And he thought that was just incredible. And then he started doing the 7 Steps to Reprogramming Yourself with his clients. And he would see something that would take 3 hours disappear in 30 minutes. And he said he literally had to clear out his disbelief that that could even possibly happen so fast.
Yeah.
And so if your goal is to make more money or to create a family or to have bigger muscles or whatever your goal is, pick any number one goal in life. If you want to get there faster, start learning about how you're designed, how your unconscious mind works. If you want to have more energy and sleep less, learn about how your body works. And as you get that education, it will serve you for the rest of your life, but it will also serve your kids, your grandkids, and on and on and on in all future generations. The smartest people tend to educate themselves starting as early as possible. When I was in college, I was so amazed at how many students were saying to me, other classmates, they couldn't wait for school to be over so they could stop studying. I couldn't wait for school to be over so I could read all the books I wanted to read, because that's how we get where we want to go.
No, I agree 100%. I've come to love to read. When I was younger, I hated to read. I wouldn't pick up a book, period. But I agree with you 100% there. So I know you told quite a few stories about to the listeners about special people that have, accomplished special things. What was the most inspiring story that you've encountered so far with somebody that was maybe at your level where you said you were really down at a low level and they kind of really rose up? And I'm sure there's quite a few stories, but is there one that's most special to you?
There's two from this year that they were in the July course. These two people came up at the beginning and shared their stories. And if it's okay, if we have time, I'll tell you both of them.
Yeah, please.
First, Eric comes up, and he's pretty young. He's probably 25, 27, so kind of like you, young, studly guy, tall, handsome, looks perfect, right?
Right.
And he tells us that he was suffering from being suicidal and had depression basically his whole life, and that he had been institutionalized for being suicidal on many occasions. They put him into a mental hospital, and that he had been given electric shock treatment to his head over 60 times. Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, did we know that people still did this? It was, scary, crazy. He said he'd been on and then weaned off of every pharmaceutical drug you can take for the mind, every psychotropic drug for depression that there is. He tried them all. And then he tried every modality that he could find in the world. And he was taking massage therapy training. And this gal, Shelly, was there, who changed her whole life. She used to have panic attacks every day. On the first day of my course, that was the end of that. She had a horrible upbringing, and she always dated horrible men. And she, after 4 months of clearing issues, married this dream guy, and she's been really happy. And she told him everything, and he said he thought it was complete BS. But he came to see me speak for a couple hours and said, when I saw her speak for a couple hours, I knew it was crap. There was no way it could work, but I signed up anyway because there's nothing else to do. And so he said after taking the course, he didn't actually notice any difference. So every day for 30 minutes, he did the 7 steps to reprogramming yourself every day. And he said after 1 year, the suicidal thoughts finally stopped. Wow. And now it's been 1.5 years. And it was amazing because he has a genuine smile. All this like light comes out of his face, his eyes, and it comes out of his mouth. And I told him, I said, Eric, just look at everyone and smile at them. And it was just so amazing to see this man who was depressed and suicidal smile with so much light and so much energy and so much love when he was supposed to, kill himself just like 1.5 years ago. So after he shares, then this girl comes up. She's 18 years old. Her name's Serenity. Again, a young person. One of their family friends had molested her from a very young age. I think she said the age of 5. And the rest of the family obviously didn't know. And she got very depressed. She became suicidal. She started living in her bed. And she and her mom started having private sessions with one of my certified practitioners, a guy by the name of Merritt Ma. And just having weekly sessions with her, and within a few months, she got out of bed. She no longer was depressed. She was no longer suicidal, and she reclaimed her life. And it's amazing when someone starts crying and then hugs me and says, "Thank you for saving my life." And that's exactly what happened. And then her mom came up and hugged me and said, "Thank you for saving my daughter's life." And she said they tried everything. It was like a miracle for her daughter to come back to life and want to live again and want to do something important in her life. And of course, you can imagine what she wants to do. She wants to use my information to help other people.
Wow, that's really impressive. I just want to get to one more question, and then we'll definitely have you on again because there's so much that we could talk about. We talk about pharmaceutical drugs in the last with the gentleman that you talked about that was suicidal. What do you think about all these people? I'm sure you've had quite a few people like him that are on pumped with all these pharmaceutical drugs, opioids, and all kinds of other drugs to make them feel happy, to not make them feel depressed. They get addicted, as with the opioids. Can you help those people get away from that stuff? Or is that something where they have to go to rehab?
That's a really great question.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to pharmaceutical drugs, that's not my arena. And so
Mm-hmm.
what I tell the students is talk to your doctor. And if they say that you can wean off of them or you can get off of them, great. A lot of my students are able to achieve that, but I don't actually do anything. I just teach them what to do, and then they do it themselves. And some of them, like Eric, are able to achieve those results. I think that it's really useful if you have something you can take to alleviate your pain temporarily. But it's much better if you can work on dealing with the real cause of the pain in a permanent way so that eventually you don't need something to alleviate the pain temporarily.
I just feel like a lot of doctors and the pharmaceutical companies push the doctors to prescribe all these drugs. And some people, like you said, they just need a little bit of help with the 7 steps, or other advice that you could give them as far as coaching, and they don't even need those drugs. That's just pushed on them. That's I guess what I was getting to with that.
Well, unfortunately, we live in a world where doctors have to follow the law, and they don't have a choice to do anything but what the law tells them.
Right. No, I agree. So lastly, where can voters, where can listeners, oh gosh. Oh, hopefully you're not running for political office.
No.
Where can listeners find more about you if they want to get in touch with you, and talk to you about coaching, or even maybe come into one of your seminars, programs, whatever you would like to call it?
Well, you guys are all welcome to visit my YouTube channel. It's Arnoux Goran. You can also go to my website. Right now it's totalhealthmasteryusa.com. Total health, like you're healthy, masteryusa.com. We're looking at a rebrand because we've grown so much away from just working on the body and the physical health. But if you go to my YouTube channel, there's tons of free videos on relationships. There's hundreds of testimonials. If you think I'm full of crap, just go watch some of those and decide for yourself. And on my website, there's a free webinar called Why Your Life Is the Way It Is. And I really get into a lot more detail on that question you asked. Like, isn't that just a fluke? How is this really going to help me change my life, get out of living in a tent? And that webinar is really, it's a workshop where you do the workshop yourself. You have to have some notepad and paper there to actually do it. And it leads you through a whole series of exercises. And at the end, it'll help you really see what a lot of your patterns are, where they come from. It's powerful and it's free. It's right there on my homepage.
No, I agree, and I didn't know what to expect from the interview at first. I said I read a lot about you, but it was really informative, and I do want to have you on, like I said, quite a few times again, because like I said, there's so many topics that we can dive into, and I think that you would benefit the listeners, whether they want to check out the YouTube page or check out some of your programs, because I'm buying into what you're saying right now. That's just my opinion, but.
Thank you very much. I
right,
really appreciate that.
Arnoux, we'll have you on again. Thanks so much for your time, and I will shoot you an email pretty soon.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Arnoux. Bye now.